From the thumbnail, I'm sure you all can have an idea of what I'll be talking about today. But before I get into what I'll be talking about today, I would love to share some of my personal notes with you guys, and I'll be reading them from my phone so I can be able to pass the exact message I would love to pass. And I just want to speak on Afghanistan. Afghanistan is one of the countries that continues to limit women's rights, women's freedom. Currently, the latest Taliban's decree bars women from praying out aloud, even in the presence of other women. I just want you to let that sink in for a moment or for a minute that you as a lady, you as a human being, you're not allowed to pray, to say your prayer out loud, even in the presence of your fellow women. So countries like Afghanistan continues to limit women's rights and freedom. And we're not just talking about rights, we're talking about basic rights, like basic human rights. Yemen is also one of those countries till date in the world that has no minimal age for marriage. And Yemen is an Arab country housing the southeastern parts and the southern parts of Arab. I would love to share statistics with you guys. About 40 million girls ages 15 to 19 are currently married in a union worldwide. Each year, 12 million more girls will marry before reaching the age of 18. And of those, 4 million are under the age of 15. And then according to Global Girlhood Reports, it states that by 2030, it is estimated that 150 million girls will lose their childhood due to child marriage. In the northern parts of Nigeria, some northern parts of Nigeria in 2024, men are still allowed to marry little girls from the age of 14. I just want you as a 30-something-year-old girl, as a 20-something-year-old girl, I want you to just take a minute and imagine, especially people who I'm sure you've heard from a number of ladies and women who are really scared about childbirth, that some women are so scared that they would rather not do it naturally because of that fear. And for those who have done it, you would always hear there is like a common consensus among women who have given birth that it is not an easy thing to do. Even at the age of 20-something, 30-something, 40-something, it is not an easy thing to do. Now imagine girls at the age of 14, 15 being married and birthing children into this world. That is why we still have cases like fistula. That is one condition that really affects children in the northern parts, because they force all these little girls into these marriages for some sort of, sometimes they feel they are protecting the girl and also to ease the family from financial constraints, because most times the men who come to marry underage girls tend to have money, or at least money more than the girl's family. Now let's move to the church. In the body of Christ, especially a place like Africa, when it comes to the issue of parents praying for their children, they always only encourage women to pray for their children, wives to pray for their husbands, wives to pray for their children and family. It's always women. You never hear in the Church of God that men should pray for their children, men are supposed to pray for their wives, men are supposed to. And we say men are the head of the family, yet the head of the family is not encouraged to pray, to do a spiritual exercise that is required of every living being as a Christian. But we don't encourage men, we only leave prayer for the aspect of women. And in the church generally, especially in Africa, we have more men of God than more women of God. Yet, when it comes to the aspect of praying, it's only focused on women. Oh, mothers, you have to pray for your kids. If not, this. And it's like, this is also the kids of the man. If he doesn't pray for the kids, let's say you're leaving your family to a woman who, how sure are you that your wife knows exactly? Guys, please, we just need to do better. This is just one issue that weighs so heavily on my mind. Now let's come to the aspect of barrenness. And our world has become so advanced that we all know that barrenness can be on either the female or the male gender, depending on the situation. But in the body of Christ in churches, we only pray for women when it comes to the issue of barrenness or prayer for children. the fruit of the womb. They never call the men. So even in cases where women are in marriages where the fault is from the husband, the woman is still expected to come out in the front of church and be prayed for the fruit of the womb. You never hear a situation where men are called out in front of the congregation for prayer. It's always women. So I feel there's a whole lot of room for improvement. Now we move to the society. Society teaches girls to be good, humble, and submissive wives, but teach the boy child zero. Know how to be a dad or a father. There are so many women, I wrote in bracket nations, that are in dire need of our help and support, and we're taking away the attention from them due to loss of focus. Like, I feel the goal or the message of feminism has been lost somewhere, sometime it was lost, and right now it's like we're taking the attention away from the people who need it the most. I'm telling you that in 2024, while you're going about complaining about something some people will say ridiculous, there are girls who they are just praying to be seen, to be heard. They just want to live a normal life like every other human being. They are God-given rights. I wrote here, I said, a feminist takes accountability and not blame the other gender for certain actions they take. The message or movement isn't about men being anti-men or against men. The message is about protecting women's freedom, choices, rights, and voices. Thanks to the pioneer of that movement, you and I get to enjoy a number of things. We get to be seen, we get to be heard, and we get to live life with no gender limitations for the most part. We still have a very long way to go. That is why it is of paramount importance to focus on the message and not lose focus in order to justify some of our takes and some of our actions. Being a feminist does not equate you to not wanting to marry or be submissive to a man. If you don't understand feminism, go learn about it, or to refrain from sounding silly. If you don't understand the movement, get enlightened to avoid making ignorant statements. There was a video I saw on X recently where a woman in Nigeria, she was in a public space seated with around about 3 or 4 guys around her, and each one of them was upset at the fact that she's seated with her legs crossed. You can see how bizarre that sounds and so funny and annoying and triggering, that they're taking an offense, and she recorded their faces. You needed to see the faces of those men. Like, they found an issue that it is such a big deal. Why would she sit down and cross her leg? Mind you, these are strangers that don't know her, and this is a public space. So seeing things like that in 2024 is just really mind-blowing, and I feel like we need to focus on the message that feminism is all about. Like, what is the message? And I feel, just like I say, a lot of us have lost the meaning or the message behind feminism, and today I want us to speak about feminism. Recently, I've just been seeing and hearing so many interesting and ignorant hot takes, especially on the internet, and it just got to a point where it felt like it seems I don't know what feminism is anymore. There are so many things people say under the disguise or under the umbrella of feminism that it got to a point I was just like, I don't think I really understand this. And there was this particular tweet I saw a few days ago, and I just, I just got caught up in my thoughts, and I told myself, I need to Google the meaning of feminism. Maybe I have forgotten, or maybe what I know is not what I know. You can never know it all. And I went on Google, I typed what is feminism, and I got the definition back. Lo and behold, the definition never changed. What I know is still what feminism is all about. So I thought to myself that we need to shed some light on feminism, because so many ladies, including me myself, I don't want to be associated as being a feminist, because it feels like the message has been taken away. That today, right now, if you call yourself a feminist, people tend to frown at you. People just believe you're all about negativity and, mostly anti-men. So that is why I thought we should talk about feminism. What is feminism? Feminism at its core, it's a belief in and advocacy for equality among all genders, specifically aiming to achieve political, economical, personal, and social interests of women. And it is very important to know that feminism is not about putting one gender above the other. In other words, it's creating a world where everyone has equal opportunities and equal rights to live without any gender limitations. Feminism continues to challenge the norms that have been historically placed on men, women, and non-binary people, especially when those norms are restrictive and harmful. Essentially, feminism is a movement that promotes or advocates fairness and freedom for everyone to live their life regardless of their gender. Now I want us to understand or dig into the history of feminism. And for this part, feminism is mostly explained in different waves, with each wave highlighting a different issue about inequality. And for the first wave, the wave started in the late 19th and early 20th century. And this wave focused on legal issues like women's right to vote. And for this, it was mostly centered around Western countries where women were advocating for their basic rights. Then we moved to the second wave, which started in the 1960s, and this wave moved greater than women fighting for their right to vote. This wave was more about workplace rights, reproductive rights, and the fight against domestic violence. So it was more than just the right to vote. It was all about women wanting to have control over their lives. Then we move to the third wave. The third wave started in the 1990s, and it came with the idea of intersectionality, which states that there are factors like your race, your class, or your sexuality, which intersects with your gender, creating a different type of inequality or a different type of experience of inequality. For example, a black woman will not only face sexism, she will also face racism. And with these identities overlapping each other, her experience will be very different from what a white woman will experience and what a black man would experience. And this wave helped us as a society to move away from that one size fits all. And then we go into what we call the fourth wave, which is what we are in currently today, which focuses on social activism. We'll move on to things like body positivity, consent, and social media awareness. Now, I want us to talk about what feminism stands for today, what they've always stood for, and what they are standing for today. Feminism is a global movement that covers a wide range of issues, and I want us to touch on some of the core principles that feminists agree upon. And the first would be equality and equity. Equality meaning treat everyone the same, and equity meaning coming to the understanding that there are some people that require different resources to achieve the same result. And then the next will be breaking gender stereotypes. Feminism has helped us challenge those stereotypes like women are natural caregivers than men, or that men should not show emotions. Feminism has helped us to create a world where everyone is free to be who they want to be and live as they want, the freedom and the rights. I just want to touch on this part where feminism challenges that women are not natural caregivers, because I'm also of the belief that there is no human being that cannot take care of something. We all in our life take care of something. If you're not taking care of your life, you're taking care of maybe something you have so much interest in, your passion, your purpose, your career, something. Well, all taking care of something. So being a caregiver a woman was not created and God made her a caregiver, and a man was not created and God put, let's say for example, God didn't create a woman and put 100% caregiving spirit, and then for men they gave 50%. Every man and woman has that caregiving aspect to them. It's all about choices. Life is all about choices, and this is what feminism is trying to preach. Also, the fact that men should not show emotions. I feel like we're not doing men a favor, and the men or the guys do not realize how much society is treating them of that. So most of them just tend to be quiet and just accept the norm of, oh, you're a man, you're not supposed to show emotions. And these are the things that feminism or feminist, the movement, is trying to change and challenge. The next would be intersectionality, and feminist has come to understand that There are many more discriminations other than gender, things like race, your sexuality, your socio-economic status, and many more other issues. The last one would be ending gender-based violence, and for this one, this is the strongest core of feminism, the movement, which calls for the end of all forms of violence and assault against women and marginalized genders. Things like domestic violence, sexual assault, and street harassment. There was a video I saw yesterday on X, another lady in Nigeria that came on Twitter to tweet that a man fondled her breast, a stranger on the road fondled her breast, and out of like reflex reaction, she slapped the man and she slapped him so hard. But along her post, towards the end, she said she slapped him hard, she's happy, but now she wants to go and cry because it is a violation of your rights. There's a way it messes with you, if you're not careful. Like, you imagine anything being done to you against your will or your consent, so things like that still happening in 2024 really, really calls for reform in how we think and how we behave today. Imagine that a man like you are going about your day, and it comes to phone. Imagine if reverse was the case, and I also want men to understand that just as any woman would say, touching her without her consent is a violation of her rights, any woman who touches you against your consent is also violating your rights, your human rights, and is sexually abusing you. You should not let things like that slide. So feminism is not always all for anti-men. As a man, any woman that you don't know, even if you know anything that is done to you against your consent, instead of you taking it that you're a man or keeping quiet, if you're not comfortable with it, if you're uncomfortable in any way or anything any woman has done to you, it is up to you to stand up to that woman. Don't take it as, oh, it's just you're a man, men are so. No, there's nothing about that. And feminism is all about that balance, not being anti-men or saying only men are suffering these issues. They're just highlighting that for the majority, women tend to suffer more of this thing. So feminism is not leaving out the male gender or being against the male gender. Some people still wonder and ask if feminism still matters and is still active today. And I would say yes, it is really, really active and still present. That in as much as a lot of work has been done, because a lot of us, you and I, every girl listening to me right now, you and I get to enjoy so many things thanks to the pioneers of this movement, especially for my 9-to-5 girlies. We're breaking glass ceilings, we're being paid. Our value and our worth is all thanks to the feminist movement, that you get to have a say on your body, your reproductive rights, how you want to live your life, being able to have control over your life as a lady in 2024. I want you to know that it's all thanks to this feminism movement or the feminist movement. And back to what I was saying, in as much as we've gone a long way, there's still lots more to do. In 2024, as I'm speaking to you, there's still so many countries that don't consider training a girl child significant. They see it as a waste of resources or pointless to train a girl child. Until today, there are still so many countries where inequality keeps happening, like in the aspect of gender pay gap, lack of representation in leadership and reproductive rights. So there is still lots more work to be done. And just like I say, in Nigeria, there are still little girls below the age of 18, they are still getting married. So we still have a long way to go. And I want to share something with you guys. It says, in many countries, girls are still denied an education. Women are underrepresented in positions of power, and harmful stereotypes continue to impact everyone. Feminism seeks to address these issues so that the future generations can grow up in a fairer and more inclusive world. Now, what can you do? What can you and I do to support this movement and to push this movement forward? First, it starts with educating yourself, understanding what feminism is, understanding what it means to be a feminist, understanding what the message is behind feminism, and understanding the movement. And then the next thing you can do is to educate other people as well. Another thing you can do is to support policies and agencies that support the feminism movement or the feminist movement, and also to stand up for sexism wherever you see it happening. These are just few ways we all can contribute to push the movement forward. There's something I wrote here I would love to share with you guys. I said, remember, feminism is about creating a world where everyone can thrive. It's about challenging the status quo and advocating for a society that respects and values everyone's rights. I hope I have been able to clear what feminism is and why it still matters. And if you have any questions, opinions, ideas, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. But before we go, guys, I want us to go into our quote for this week. What's our quote for this week? Our first quote for this week says, "The beautiful thing about learning is nobody can take it away from you." And I just want to encourage you to keep learning in every aspect of life. There's always something to learn. Just like feminism today, there's still so much to be learned, because when you keep hearing and seeing certain things, especially on social media, then you get to understand that a lot of women, and this is just so sad, but a lot of ladies, girls, women do not really understand what feminism is, what being a feminist is, and what the movement is all about. That is why you tend to see so many ladies shy away from being addressed as a feminist. And I just want to address something before we go. There was this story on X. It happened in Nigeria where it's like, I don't really have the full story, but a lady poisoned a food she made for her ex-boyfriend, and unfortunately he got to eat it with his current girlfriend and 3 other of his friends, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 other of his friends. So we lost about 4 or 5 people in one day. And from the look of things, there's someone on Twitter, I think the page has been deactivated now according to the gist. Like I said, the gist is shaky, so in case you have the full gist or you know better, please feel free to share it in the comment section. But what I'm trying to say is there's this account on Twitter that was deactivated, and it was by a lady who calls herself a feminist, and she started inciting young lady with her tweets by saying things like, if a man is not acting right, they should start killing this man. And there are some people or some women and ladies, girls, who also support and have this idea. So when ideas like that keeps being put out online, being shared to other people, the bad thing about an idea is, as little as that idea can be, it is just a tiny seed that if it's planted, it can create a very enormous and gigantic tree, so it is really important for us to be cautious in how we operate and having understanding in the things we do, because there's a group of people on Twitter who call themselves feminists, and some of the things they say and they do, it's so far away from the movement. So I just felt we need to educate ourselves and other people as well, so that we stop making ignorant and silly takes on the internet and mindset as well, because we're also passing out these things to other young girls. And if you want a change, the change begins with you, or that change has to start with you. So please, as a girl, as a guy, understand what feminism is all about and what the message and movement is all about. And if you don't, instead of saying something negative, ignorant, silly, dumb, go learn what feminism is. And if it's too much for you to learn, then perhaps you should just not have an opinion or say anything to prevent yourself from embarrassing yourself, just like I say. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, keep the conversation going, share this video with your friends. If you have more insight, please feel free to leave it in the comment section, so I and other girls will also get to learn. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you guys next time.